the girl in ruby slippers, singing her dreams into technicolor skies. But what if the voice behind the rainbow, the woman who enchanted millions, was living a life shadowed by heartbreak, relentless pressure, and secrets no one dared to speak of? Tonight, we peel back the glittering curtain of Hollywood's golden age to uncover the untold struggles, shocking twists, and hidden sacrifices of Judy Garland. At number 27, we start at the very beginning. Frances Gumm, born in 1922, a girl who was never really allowed to be just a child. Her mother, Ethel, was determined, relentless, and often emotionally manipulative. The family's vaudeville lifestyle demanded constant performance, travel, and perfection. Imagine being pushed onto stages before you can even fully read the applause. That pressure was just the opening act. How would you feel if your childhood was stolen for the sake of entertainment? Share that with me. Did it ever feel like your own dreams were ignored for someone else's idea of success? By 26, Judy had already been caught in the complex web of Hollywood's studio system. MGM didn't just make movies, they crafted identities, and Judy's identity was meticulously retooled. At number 26, the studio changed everything about her. Her name, her hair, even what she ate. Can you imagine being so young, told that the very person you are isn't acceptable, and that you must become someone else to be loved, to be successful? Publicly, she was perfection. Privately, she was suffocating. Behind closed doors, she was dosed with pills to sleep, wake, lose weight. Decisions made by executives who thought they knew better than the girl living inside her own body. It's overwhelming just thinking about it. Would you have been able to cope with that? It's one of those moments that makes you pause and wonder how much of your own identity is shaped by outside expectations. Moving up to number 25, we step into the first glimmers of stardom, but not without cost. Judy's earliest film roles brought applause, yes, but also a constant barrage of criticism and correction. Directors were ruthless, co-stars could be cruel, and every mistake felt monumental. And yet, she smiled, she sang, she performed, and the world adored her. The contrast between her bright public persona and private turmoil created a tension that no one watching could fully grasp at the time. People often assume success equals happiness, but with Judy, it was the opposite. Her triumphs were gilded cages, and every award ceremony was a reminder that freedom came at a price. Think about a moment in your life where a win felt more like a burden. Did it ever feel like the applause wasn't for you, but for what others expected of you? Number 24 uncovers her early struggles with mental health. Long before the term celebrity burnout was ever whispered in Hollywood corridors, anxiety, depression, and extreme exhaustion shadowed her performances. Yet she kept going. Audiences called her enchanting, inspiring, magical, and Judy delivered. But the people who loved her most, her fans, her friends, often had no idea of the personal storms raging behind the curtain. They didn't see the trembling hands, the sleepless nights, the silent tears. Imagine having to be on every single day of your life, while your inner world feels like it's falling apart. How do you stay grounded when the world expects you to sparkle constantly? That's exactly the tightrope she walked. At number 23, we touch on her first brushes with love and personal relationships, an arena just as complicated and fraught as her career. Even as a teenager, her heart was exposed to men who didn't always have her best interests at heart. She married early, seeking affection, stability, and understanding, yet often found manipulation and disappointment instead. The public loved the fairy tale image, the perfect girlfriend, wife, or leading lady. Behind the scenes, it was heartbreak. Have you ever pursued something or someone that seemed perfect on the surface, but left you feeling hollow? Judy's story reminds us that adoration from thousands can't replace genuine human connection. Number 22 is where fame really hit its peak. and the glitter began to weigh heavier than the gold. The Wizard of Oz, of course, catapulted her to international stardom, a role she embodied with all the joy and vulnerability she could muster. But with that triumph came new pressures, contracts, relentless touring, and constant public scrutiny. She was celebrated, photographed, interviewed, and yet never truly known. People cheered for Dorothy, for the singing, dancing star, but few understood Frances behind the curtain. How often do we see someone's public persona and assume we know them fully? Judy's life is a cautionary tale of the cost of fame, and it's hard not to wonder what she truly longed for in those quiet moments off stage. At number 21, the demands intensified. MGM's control extended into every aspect of her physical and emotional health. Her diet, her rest, even her personal interactions were monitored. Pills became a daily companion. Sleeping pills to calm the exhaustion, amphetamines to keep energy high, sedatives to control emotions. She was trapped in a cycle few could imagine, and yet she smiled for the cameras. How much of what we see in someone's life is manufactured? And if you had to smile through suffering every day, how long could you keep it up before breaking? Number 20 brings us into the world of contracts and studios that saw her as property, not person. MGM held an iron grip, dictating what she could say, where she could go, and with whom she could socialize. She was a commodity, an asset, and her dreams were secondary to profit margins. Fans adored her, but the business side of Hollywood didn't. At premieres, the applause felt warm, the lights dazzling. But back in her dressing room, she faced isolation. Have you ever felt admired or celebrated yet completely alone? That paradox is central to Judy's early adulthood. Number 19 is a turning point. The world begins to glimpse cracks in the facade. On set, she starts missing cues, faltering under relentless pressure, and her dependence on medication deepens. Studio executives labeled her difficult, a dangerous euphemism for anyone who dared struggle publicly. Finally, at number 18, we see the first real public signs of her vulnerability. Gossip columns hinted at late-night escapades, whispered about her erratic moods, and speculated endlessly. Fans were confused. They still adored her. Critics were cruel. And Judy? She kept performing, kept singing, kept giving the world that voice that seemed to float above all the chaos. Audiences might not have realized it, but each note she sang carried layers of triumph, defiance, and sorrow. It's a reminder that public success rarely tells the full story of private struggle. At number 17, we step into the whirlwind of her mid-20s, a period where concerts, tours, and movie sets became relentless. Fans adored her, packed theaters hung on her every note, and critics praised her as an icon of talent. But behind the glitz, exhaustion was taking its toll. Long days on set, sleepless nights rehearsing, and relentless pressure to stay perfect left her physically drained and emotionally fragile. She'd smile for the cameras, but every performance demanded more than most humans could give. Can you imagine being applauded by thousands while feeling utterly hollow inside? That tension between adoration and inner turmoil would become a defining feature of her life. Number 16 reveals the increasingly invasive control of MGM. Even as her fame grew, her life was micromanaged. Every meal, every outfit, every personal interaction scrutinized. There was no escape, not even for a moment. And the pills, they kept coming. Sleep aids to calm her nights, stimulants to power her through the day, weight loss medications to maintain a youthful image the studio demanded. Fans might have seen magic on screen, but behind the scenes, Judy was running on a fragile cocktail of chemicals. It's chilling to consider. How much of her vitality was truly her own? If you were in that position, would you have found it possible to smile through it all? At number 15, we see the first cracks in her personal relationships as fame collides with intimacy. Romantic partners often sought the allure of being with Judy Garland, the icon. not Francis Gum the person. Marriages were turbulent, some fleeting and many leaving her heartbroken. There was a constant tension between love, trust, and betrayal. People around her sometimes saw her vulnerability as weakness, never realizing the strength it took for her to keep performing, keep giving, keep loving amidst such chaos. Think about someone you cared for deeply but couldn't fully trust. How does that change your sense of self? Number 14 marks her intense struggle with mental health, a topic rarely spoken of in Hollywood at the time. Anxiety, panic attacks, and moments of despair were regular companions. And yet, the world still expected brilliance. Critics labeled her temperamental, studios branded her difficult, and audiences remained blissfully unaware. The disparity between public perception and private reality is staggering. Watching Judy navigate this period is a masterclass in resilience, even as it broke her piece by piece. Have you ever had to perform at your peak while feeling completely untethered? That's the kind of tension Judy lived every day. Number 13 introduces the immense physical toll of performing, touring, and filming nonstop. Her voice, the instrument that enchanted millions, was pushed to its limits. She'd sometimes collapse backstage, exhausted, only to be expected to rise and sing again. Fans cheered, unaware of the cost of every note, every gesture, every smile. One can almost feel the mixture of admiration and pity from those closest to her. Friends who wanted her to rest, who feared for her health, but who also couldn't stop marveling at her talent. How often do we overlook the human effort behind genius? Judy's story is a stark reminder of that invisible sacrifice. At number 12, the studio's manipulation escalates. MGM not only controlled her schedule and image, but also sought to dictate her emotions, relationships, and choices. Every decision was scrutinized, every action judged. Her personal agency shrank while her star grew, creating a paradox few could understand. Audiences saw a shining icon. Judy lived as a puppet, her strings pulled by executives, public opinion, and unrelenting societal expectations. Have you ever felt trapped by the expectations of others, even when everything seems to be going right? That tension between freedom and obligation is hauntingly present in her story. Number 11 reveals a particularly painful aspect: her growing dependence on substances. Sleep aids, stimulants, sedatives. They became a lifeline and a trap. Every pill offered temporary relief, but also tethered her further to a life dictated by external demands. Imagine needing to rely on chemicals just to survive each day, all while the world admires your energy, talent, and smile. It's almost impossible to grasp. And yet, this struggle became central to Judy's adult life. Have you ever leaned on something that gave temporary comfort, but also deepened a larger problem? It's a human moment many of us can relate to in some way. Number 10 highlights the contradictions of public adoration and private despair. Fans wrote letters, attended concerts, and celebrated her life on screen. But few realized how lonely it was behind the scenes. She was a national treasure, yet profoundly isolated. Friends tried to intervene, but the demands of her schedule and studio contracts made any respite fleeting. The disconnect between external admiration and internal suffering was painful, and it colors how we understand celebrity culture today. When you look up to someone, do you assume happiness or success automatically follows? Judy's life challenges that assumption in the most profound ways. Number 9 delves into her financial struggles. Despite massive fame, Judy often found herself in debt. Mismanaged earnings, ill-advised investments, and exploitation by those close to her left her scrambling to make ends meet. Performing cabaret shows, tours, and concerts became not just a passion, but a necessity to survive. Fans saw the glamorous performances. They didn't see the constant anxiety over money, the desperate calculations behind each paycheck. Have you ever worked tirelessly yet felt financially insecure? Judy's story shows that wealth on the surface can mask real vulnerability beneath. Number 8 is where things intensify dramatically. By this point, Judy's health, both physical and mental, was increasingly fragile. Exhaustion, dependency on medications, and personal heartache collided to create a storm she struggled to weather. Yet, remarkably, she continued performing. Concerts sold out, critics praised her, and fans cheered, unaware of the toll it exacted. Her resilience in this period is astonishing, but it's tinged with sorrow. Watching her navigate these years, one can't help but feel awe and heartbreak at the same time. How would you continue when the world demands your brilliance, but your body and heart are screaming for rest? Throughout these years, public opinion oscillated between adoration and misunderstanding. Fans loved Judy's talent, but often speculated about her private life with curiosity and gossip. Headlines whispered scandal, late nights, and difficult behavior. And yet, when she sang, the audience melted, believing in the magic completely. There's a lesson here about human complexity, how public perception can clash dramatically with private reality. Have you ever felt misunderstood even as others praised you? Judy's story reminds us how vital empathy is when looking at someone else's life. At number 7, we confront the relentless pressure of live performances in the 1960s. Concert halls around the world were packed when her name appeared on the marquee, fans hanging on to every note, every gesture, every smile. Yet, backstage, she battled exhaustion that no applause could fix. Her body, worn down by decades of pills, endless rehearsals and touring, screamed for rest. But the show had to go on. Can you feel the contradiction? Electric admiration on one side, invisible suffering on the other? How would you cope if every performance felt like both a triumph and a trial? Number 6 dives into the financial chaos that shadowed her final years. Despite being a household name, Judy struggled to stay afloat. Multiple marriages, some to men who exploited her earnings, left her in constant worry about bills, taxes, and survival. Cabaret shows and tours were not indulgences. They were necessities. Audiences saw glamour and charisma, but behind the curtains were frantic calculations and a heart heavy with responsibility. Imagine living a life where your fame doesn't protect you from hardship, where even your brightest moments are tinged with anxiety. Have you ever worked tirelessly yet felt like it was never enough? Judy knew that feeling intimately. At number 5, her personal life takes another blow. Relationships were turbulent, fleeting, and often emotionally damaging. Love, trust, and connection became elusive commodities. Even as she sought stability, the people she let close sometimes brought heartbreak instead. Number 4 uncovers the darker realities of her health. By this point, chronic exhaustion, dependency on medications, and emotional strain had created a fragile equilibrium. Every performance was both a victory and a gamble. Each note she sang was a testament to her courage and an echo of her suffering. Fans marveled at her strength without realizing the daily battles waged behind the curtain. How often do we mistake resilience for invulnerability? Judy's life illustrates that extraordinary talent often comes with extraordinary cost. At number 3, we confront the heart-wrenching intersection of career demands and personal turmoil. MGM had dropped her years earlier, yet the industry never truly let her rest. Concerts, film appearances, and interviews were relentless. Her public persona demanded joy and sparkle, but private moments revealed despair, fear, and exhaustion. She was trapped in a world that worshipped her while simultaneously eroding her. Friends and colleagues could see it. Fans could not. It's almost unbearable to imagine performing with a body that won't cooperate and a mind under siege. Yet she never stopped giving the world her voice. How do you keep giving when the world expects brilliance, but your soul feels empty? Number 2 escalates to the tipping point. Her health and personal stability teetered dangerously, exacerbated by emotional trauma, failed relationships, and relentless public scrutiny. Pills had become a crutch, fatigue a constant companion, and financial pressures loomed. And now, at number 1, we arrive at the heart of the tragedy. Judy Garland's final days, June 22, 1969, London. A lifetime of extraordinary talent, personal sacrifice, and resilience came to an abrupt and heartbreaking end. She was found dead, just 47 years old, from an accidental overdose. The world mourned, yet even in death, the complexity of her life, the brilliance, the suffering, the unrelenting pressures was hard to fully comprehend. So as we bring this journey to a close, I want you to pause for a moment and think about your own life. When you push yourself to perform, to meet expectations, to keep going despite exhaustion, what does it cost you emotionally, physically, or spiritually? And when you admire someone else's brilliance, how can you balance that admiration with understanding the complexity and struggles that lie behind it? Judy Garland's story invites us to reflect on our own humanity, our own resilience, and the ways we honor both ourselves and those we admire.